typically got your inspection period. And during that time, then they would market that property, find a buyer for it. And the buyer would pay more than what you have it under contract for. And that's what you make as a wholesaler. And it's called a finder's fee.
Welcome to the Next Level Income Show, where it's our goal to take your income, your investments, and your life to the next level. I'm your host, Chris Larson. If you haven't yet, get a copy of our book for free at our website, nextlevelincome.com. That's www.nextlevelincome.com. Just click on the book link, and I'll even send you a copy if you put your address in. On today's show, we have David Lecko. David is the founder and CEO of DealMachine, the highest rated mobile app to help real estate investors find off-market deals. He's also a real estate investor based in Austin, Texas. David created DealMachine in 2017 when he was new to real estate investing himself. He knew from reading that the best way to find off-market deals was to go driving for dollars and send direct mail. He's going to talk about his story as he did that and built his $2 million rental portfolio. He built that shortly after acquiring his first rental portfolio, and then he helped grow that with the DealMachine app. David also co-hosts the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast, which helps listeners start their journey to financial freedom through real estate. When he's not leading DealMachine or out driving for dollars, you might find David surfing, doing laps on the racetrack, or hanging out with his cats, George and Winston. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
Yeah, man, it's great to have you. I'm excited to talk about your business, what you've done with DealMachine. I've been checking out your app online. And look, we have a lot of listeners, David, that they want to be passive investors. They want to figure out, hey, how can I be, in a part of an owner in a big apartment complex and that sort of thing. But for years, I've gotten these questions like, Chris, how did you get started? How did you make not your first million, but how did you make your first $1,000 or $10,000 to help give you that additional income? So you actually had something to invest. And I'm really excited to talk about wholesaling today with you, because this is one thing that I heard a lot about when I was first getting involved in real estate. But tell us a little bit about your journey, David. Tell us how you got to this point, and we can go all the way through until today when you're working with DealMachine.
Yeah, so I was working at a company that was working me 60 hours per week, and weird hours of the night. In fact, I would sleep with my computer under my pillow, because if a tech support call came in, I just needed to pull that computer open and solve it. Wow. It was the easiest way for me to solve that, was sleeping with my computer under my pillow. And the final straw at that job was at my best friend's wedding. I made it through the ceremony and was about to dive into my salad during the reception when my phone rang, and I knew it was a tech support call for that job. So I actually ended up going out to my car, and it was just ringing 4 or 5 times by the time I found a quiet spot and opened the phone. And then I had my computer in my car. So I pushed my steering wheel in, reclined that seat back, and then open the computer and get on the phone call to see what was going on. And 15 minutes later, I got the call handled and went back. And my best friend's wife's like, "Where'd you go?" And I was like, "Well, I had this work call I had to go to." And she said, "They need to hire someone else. Like you can't be living your life like this." And my first reaction was like, I'm somebody who values getting as much experience now so that later capitalize on that and hopefully retire by the time I'm 40. But I was a couple years into this job, and I thought about what she said. And that's when I realized I've been at this job for 2 years. I think I've learned everything that I could learn. And if I'm going to work this hard, I'm going to work for myself. It's going to be for me.
Yeah.
So one thing I noticed was the person who owned that company, he actually had 5 rental properties. And I asked him, I've been contributing to my Roth IRA. I've been maxing it out since I did my internships in college. Why do you have rental properties when you could be investing into the stock market like that? And he said something that changed my life forever. He said, if you want to retire by the time you're 40, the stock market can go up and down. At that time, the stocks had been down quite a bit.
Yeah.
He said the rental properties will cash flow every single month as long as you and manage them well. So I went searching on a path for information about this new type of investment. I had never considered that would provide a much easier ability to retire. And I figured, well, if I can cash flow $500 a property, then I only need about 15 properties before I actually retire. So became a very clear goal. And I never contributed to my Roth IRA ever again. And I started working on finding that first real estate deal, but it wasn't as easy as I thought, you know. I started looking at
And
Zillow.
what year was this, David?
This was in 2016.
Okay. Yeah, so that was a great time to be buying property, but still not super easy.
Yeah, it actually took me a little bit. I didn't get my first one until 2017 or 18.
Yeah.
Um, but I did start looking at Zillow and Indianapolis, which is a pretty good market.
Yeah.
Everything that was listed by an agent, I could see what the estimated mortgage payment was on Zillow. And
Yeah.
then I could see what it went for using this tool called Rentometer. That was the only way I knew what it would possibly rent for.
Yeah.
And none of those were going to rent for more than what the mortgage payment was. So
Yeah.
I was scratching my head, and I actually went back to my boss
Yeah.
and I said, how did you find these properties that cash flow? And he didn't mean to be discouraging, but I felt totally discouraged when he said, I bought these in 2008 after that crashed. The values were low,
Yeah.
and I'm not really sure you could find properties like this anymore. But I'm the type of person, Chris, who doesn't like to take no for an answer. I hate being told no. So really that, discouragement changed into like a fire under my butt. And
Yeah.
I ended up reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. I ended up finding
Love
these
it.
meetups. And at the meetups, people were doing deals all the time. So that
Yeah.
told me I've got to find a new way. And they weren't looking on the market. They were doing marketing to certain types of homes, asking if they want to sell their house.
Yeah.
And if they did, they were run down so they could buy them at a discount and potentially fix them up and have a great cash flowing rental property that they didn't have. They had way less money in total, but it was actually worth, allowing it to cash flow. So I went on a journey like that for about 6 months. And that's when I got my first call back that turned into a deal.
Love it.
And it was a crazy house. It was like 600 square feet. It had tarp on the roof. He had the bathtub running so it wouldn't freeze. It was 3 layers of wood paneling
Oh,
because
great.
it was that old and had been
3 layers. It'd been like
renovated with
re-wood
paneling
paneled.
multiple times. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, ended up not having a ton of cash, but it was in a rough neighborhood. So I was able to buy it for $4,000 and he accepted my offer.
4K. Wow.
Yes. And then I got 5 no interest credit cards, totaling about $55,000. I found a contractor that would take that.
Yeah.
And I ended up, renovating that and then renting it out for, at the time, $1,000 per month. And that was my very first deal.
Yeah. Not bad. I love it, man. There's several things here. So, you mentioned reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, and one thing that Robert Kiyosaki talks about, which I love, is he says, don't take a job for what it pays you, take a job for what it teaches you. Basically what he's saying is how much more it will make you in the future, how much more valuable it will make you. And I love that philosophy that you had, because you were saying, hey, I want to get as much experience as possible. And I think that resonates with a lot of listeners. I spent 12 years of my own on call in the medical device space, and I got a lot of those nights at 3 a.m. standing under the fluorescent lights in the OR. And I was like, there's no way I can do this, and have a family for the rest of my life. And I love how you figured out a way out of that, as did I. But the other thing you mentioned was you stopped contributing to your Roth IRA. And I've said this before on the show, but let's run through some quick math, David, because I think you made a great choice. Because you can't eat your stock market investments in your IRA, right? You can eat off passive income that's coming off your properties, right? And that's what we say. Hey, you need passive income to really be financially independent. But if you contribute to a qualified plan, you're basically making a bet on 2 things. So if you invest, quote unquote, invest through a qualified plan, whether you invest today and not pay taxes and pay taxes in the future, or whether you invest today, pay taxes, and then don't pay taxes in the future, it's equivalent. There's no difference in that if the returns and the tax rates are the same. So in individual, if you're listening out there and you're putting money into a qualified plan, you're betting that your tax rate's going to go down in the future, which means one of 2 things. either you're going to make less money, which I don't know about you, David, but I don't want to make less money in the future, or two, we think the government's going to lower tax rates. And we got to increase taxes about 50% today to balance the budget. So I love that piece of advice that you had, David. You didn't really say it as advice, but if you're trying to develop passive income, look at where you can pull some of that income, such as contributions to a plan. Now, so you found that deal. How did you find? You said where did you find that deal exactly, David? That $4,000 deal.
I was on Rembrandt Street in
Okay.
Indianapolis.
Oh, but I mean, like, who you found it? Was it from a broker or was it?
No, that's a good question. I don't think I mentioned that. So all the stuff that was listed by agents, it was in
Yeah.
a cash flow.
What type of
So,
agent wants to sell a $4,000 house, right?
well, that is also true, but the way everyone in my real estate meetup in Indianapolis was able to find great deals was they were marketing to certain types of homes that were not
Gotcha.
listed for sale, but that they felt would end up needing to sell and for a discount if that were to happen. So
So
I
they were
went looking
sending like
around.
direct mail, for instance, to these owners and saying, "Hey, do you want to sell your house?"
Yeah. So I
Gotcha.
drove around looking for
Yeah.
rundown properties.
Yeah.
And then I sent mail to this owner once a month that said, "Is this your property? If you're interested in selling, I can close quickly and with cash. And if so, give me a call or text and have a great day." So I sent that six
Yeah.
times. He replied on the sixth time.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. And look, my wife and I, we used to build spec homes. We did the same thing. And my wife, just a couple of years ago, this was 10 years ago, she was sending these postcards to people with lots, adjacent to their homes. And I think it's phenomenal, the way it worked. So that was your first deal. Now as I mentioned in the intro, David, you built a multi-million dollar portfolio. Were they all like that? Is that how you found all your deals, or how did you accumulate? How about your next deal and your deals after that? What type of strategy did you use for those?
Yeah. So I acquired 9 rentals over the next 2 years. And I did not have a lot of money. So the way I was doing it was finding a really, really great deal. And I had a friend provide all the money and put his name on the mortgage. But then my name was 50% owner of the property. So I had
Gotcha.
no money in the deal because I'm the one who found such a great deal. It was advantageous for him to be providing the down payment and the mortgage in exclusively his name and still give me 50% ownership. So that's how I did it. And several of these deals, we used what was called the BRRRR strategy. So
Yep.
that gives you infinite returns. It lets you recycle your money because the money you'd normally put as a down payment, you actually create in equity. So you find the rundown house, you buy it, you fix it up,
Yep.
you refinance it. It's worth over 25% more than all the money you have in it. So when you get the refinance, you get free 25% payment essentially, and then you get
Yeah.
all the cash back out to
Yeah.
do like more deals with. So that's how
Yeah.
I've gotten the deals.
So BRRRR is, as you were saying, buy, renovate, refinance, repeat, and that's what BRRRR stands for.
Yeah. Then there's one
Perfect.
more R you missed. It just stands for
Oh,
rent. But
there we go.
that's all right. There are 3 R's.
There we go. I threw repeat in there, I guess. So there could be 4 R's if you want to do
Oh, I
that.
think there
But
are 4 R's:
yeah,
buy, rent, renovate,
yeah.
refinance, repeat.
There we go. Love it, man. Love it. Yeah. So I think a lot of people are familiar with that. Um, and that's great. So if you're listening, you're like, well, I don't want to work as hard as David does, but I got some money. You could partner with somebody like you did, like you, David. And I think, there's always, that's what's great. You were saying like, there's no deals to be had, yet I go to this meeting and everybody's doing deals, but you don't have to do everything. You can divide and conquer the things. Now, was this like a high income earner? Did he have money in his self-directed IRA? Where was your partner getting his cash?
Yeah, so we were friends from our internship at AT&T. He worked in Chicago as a stock trader, so he was
Nice.
essentially
Yeah.
a big W-2 earner.
Yeah.
Actually, for a hedge fund, he was maybe
Yeah.
doing options trading for something like that. So
Yeah.
he had a
Beautiful.
lot of W-2 income.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Um, so, I think, these local meetups or Korea meetings are great for people just starting out. There's a ton of education out there. I met a lot of contacts that I'm still friends with 25 years later from those meetings that I was going to in college. And I'll never forget, one of the mentors that I had. He was an African American gentleman, and he took me into inner city Baltimore one time with him to negotiate a deal. You talk about sticking out like a sore thumb. That was me. But man, it was so cool to get to learn and understand from the people in this group. Now, you built this portfolio. When did it occur to you to find a better way? Because you said I don't like taking no for an answer. When did it occur to you to find a better way to put a tool that now is DealMachine into place to help make this process more efficient? Are you a high-income business owner or professional earning 300,000 or even more a year, but still feel like you're living paycheck to paycheck? Are you comfortable working until you're 65 or 70 to retire, or do you want to achieve financial independence and live life on your own terms? You could join myself and Matt Four and learn how we both became financially independent in our early 30s. We will teach you how to make, keep, and grow your money, teaching you strategies to maximize your earnings, keep your income that you've earned through tax strategy and legal structures, and ultimately teach you how to grow it by determining your personal investing strategy, as well as teach you how to analyze investments so you can grow your passive income to the point to live life on your own terms. Our coaching clients reliably do this in 7 years or less. To learn more, check out our coaching program at nextlevelincome.com/coaching. That's nextlevelincome.com/coaching.
Yeah. So when I was driving around looking for those properties that looked run down, I did that about 2 months, and I was
Driving
writing
for
stuff
dollars,
down on
they
a
say,
piece of
right?
paper. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And I saw one of the properties on a drive that I knew I'd already written down. But this time, somebody was out with a ladder, a painter's truck, working on the property.
Okay.
And my stomach dropped because I felt like that was my property.
I love
And
it.
so I went home and I looked up to see if anyone had bought it recently. And sure enough, 3 weeks ago, they bought it. So obviously, I felt like I missed out on a deal. It was just sitting on my paper. I'd never even sent them any piece of mail or anything like that.
Gotcha.
So I went home and I started putting out my mail, putting that together with my printer. And that took a really long time. So I actually spent the rest of the weekend using the limited software development skills I had to make a widget for myself that was just like a Google map that allowed me to pin the house and link with a company that would print them as soon as I sent them a computer request. And I linked that up to my widget.
Yeah.
That's what I started doing from then on. Instead of writing it down, it would look up the person who owned it, and then it would send that mail as soon as I pinned the house. So I started doing that from that point on. And it wasn't until a few months later that I showed somebody at my meetup that I was using that. And then they said they'll spend $1,000 for any new marketing. How do they get it on their phone? And my jaw dropped. It's like, I'm not even trying to sell this. What are you talking about? But I found out a way to link up a payment processor and then put it on the app store. And it needed a name to put on the app store. So I just came up with this word. My old job, if I had sold we sold software at that old job.
Yeah.
If I sold something, they'd be like, man, David is a deal machine at the company meeting. And I like that sound of it. And I was like, well, I'll just come up with that. So
That's your
that's how
nickname. I
Deal
love
Machine
that, man.
started. It wasn't meant to be a business, but she needed and she wanted to put it on her phone. So that's
Yeah.
how I set it up and got it going.
I love that. I love that. So what does it do? Like I've been checking out your website. Who should check out DealMachine? Who is it designed to help?
70% of the people who sign up, and we had 3,000 people sign up last month,
Awesome.
is somebody who wants to replace their W-2 income and start a business that allows them to have more time freedom.
Yeah.
So they're doing a strategy called wholesaling real estate where they get paid to find a house that looks run down.
Yeah.
They
So
give it to an investor.
sorry. Let's back up real quick so people understand. So wholesaling a house, this is something that we've used the term a couple times. So if I go and buy a house, quote unquote, retail, that's basically looking it up on the MLS or going to a broker. Is that right?
Correct.
All right. And wholesaling, start over one more time. And what is wholesaling? How is that different?
Yeah, so you get paid for finding a rundown house. So a lot of people who would do wholesaling real estate would market to the house the way we just described,
Yep.
looking for a rundown house, sending mail asking if cash offer. They would get it under contract in the same way, using a contract from the internet, no, nothing crazy. I use a 3-page contract. All you need is sale price, address, buyer, seller, and a date. That's what you need to buy a house. And there's a period of time once it's under contract and before it closes, 2-3 weeks. That's typically got your inspection period. And during that time, then they would market that property, find a buyer for it. And the buyer would pay more than what you have it under contract for. And that's what you make as a wholesaler. And it's called a finder's fee or an assignment fee.
Yep.
And that is how you do wholesaling real estate. You don't need money because you're not buying the house. You get paid for finding a great deal.
Love that. So for example, your house that you bought for $4,000, that first house in Indianapolis, if I was looking for a deal and you came to me and said, "Hey Chris, I got this great opportunity. It's 10 grand." So you're
I
going
would
to
have
pay
made 6 grand
4,000.
in that
Yeah, you
case.
would have made 6 grand just for finding that deal and quote unquote flipping it to me. And then I would be the one that
Correct.
would take it over and actually do the quote unquote hard work and getting that on the market.
Right. Yeah. I could have done that too. I could have done that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, I guess so. This strategy, it can not only be good for generating capital, 5 grand, 10 grand, 20 grand. I know people that have made 6 figures on flipping a really good deal or maybe a commercial property, that sort of thing. You're smiling. You probably have a good example of that. But also, if I'm looking, like let's say I'm looking for my first home. I hear this all the time, David. People say, "Oh, I'm a first time home buyer. I can't find any deals out there." But this is something that person could use too, right?
Right. I mean, I've used it to acquire my own properties.
Yeah.
Every time I'm tempted to wholesale it. But I remember my goal is to retire by the time I'm 40, and I need 15 properties to do that.
Yeah.
So if I really don't need the cash because I've got a friend who's providing all the cash,
Yeah.
it's better for me just to take this deal down ourselves, in my opinion. I never wanted to let go of such a great deal, so that's why I've never, it's exactly why I kept it. But and if you're looking at those types of properties yourself, you'll find better deals that way than you could possibly find with a wholesaler, because a wholesaler is in the business to make money, of course. So they should be selling it for the top dollar that they can. And there's a lot of hedge funds that will buy it for a top dollar, way more than I would buy it as an independent investor. And so the wholesalers will sell it to them every time. So it's hard
Gotcha.
and deals that meet my criteria from wholesalers.
Gotcha.
And so that's why I just go direct to the seller myself.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So how does your app fit in here? So I download the app, and what's it going to help me do? It's going to help me. It's going to just spit out the properties in my local neighborhood that I should go check out.
So the way we started was a little tool that just saves you time while you're driving for dollars and eliminates everyone's ability to not follow through. I was struggling following through myself. So
that's valuable. Accountability is worth a lot.
Yeah, it tells you who owns it, and you can send mail, and it will repeat the mail just after you pin the property. So it's what it started off with. But now, a lot of people, instead of sending direct mail, they may be cold calling or text messaging the owners. And so you also get unlimited contact info DealMachine. So you could see who owns it, and you could call them or text them to see if they want that cash offer. So it's faster than the mail. It obviously is right away. So and normally you get nickeled and dimed to look up that information with like a skip trace is what it's called.
Yeah.
But we just launched this unlimited contact info back in November. It's the number one like hot thing now for us, and reason why people use DealMachine and find it really valuable. If you don't have as much time because you're working a 9-to-5 job to look around your neighborhood for rundown houses, you could also pull these niche lists of houses that may be highly motivated, such as people who are behind on their taxes, or properties that may be going into the probate process soon, or a property that has some type of code violation, meaning, the city's charging an obscene amount to cut your tall grass, and this, bills are stacking up. It's becoming a hassle. I just did a deal like this from somebody who's an orthodontist in Utah. He had bought 6 properties in Indianapolis 4 years ago. None of them have been renovated because the person who was advising him really disappeared. They were supposed to work on the property, and he was making more money as an orthodontist than was worth his time to figure out and track down a great contractor and manage the process. So by the time he was behind on his taxes in 2023, he just as soon sell a property to me for what I needed it at, great discount.
Yeah.
So there's always people, and you wonder, well, how would somebody sell below value? Well, for him, it was a huge mistake, and he was about to lose the property. So he just wanted to get rid of it. And so and he didn't really care that it was lower than what he actually paid. It had just been a 3-year headache. He wanted it to end.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. All right. So how can people download the app? We're gonna share the link here in the show notes as well that you share. But if somebody wants to check this app out, if they want to download, if they want to see how it works, what's the best way to do that, David?
Yeah. So DealMachine.com, and there's like a try it for free to start that 7-day free trial. And one other thing too, if you're brand new to marketing property like this, I wanted to let you guys know, in my own podcast, I just did this episode that was the best episode of the last 6 months, called 6 Ways to Help Someone in Foreclosure. It's episode 97 of the DealMachine podcast. And that could really just quickly, within 29 minutes, show you how to talk with and market to somebody like that, who would be in motivation, right, to sell their property before it gets taken by the bank.
Awesome, man. We will. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the show notes as well. Tell us a little bit more about your podcast, David. We were talking a little bit before the show. You already have a ton of episodes out there. Who should listen to it? Who should tune in?
It's the podcast to quit your W-2 and replace, your income by wholesaling real estate. So the average person, has a job they're not excited about, but they're scared to take that leap. So you start by building a side hustle and end up making 4 times your salary if you've gotten that going, and ultimately end up quitting your job and having freedom to take your kids to school and have a lot more control over your schedule. So that's typically who's listening to the podcast. They're looking for their first wholesale deal.
I love it, man. I love it. Yeah. So look, as we said at the beginning of the show, if you're starting out and it's a little overwhelming to think about investing $50,000 or $100,000, but you want to start a side hustle, you want to create more time, more freedom for yourself in your life. Maybe you want to create money to invest. Maybe you want to help your spouse get a job. Check out David's website, DealMachine.com. Check out his podcast. Check out his app. It can help you do all kinds of things that we've talked about today. David, thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing your knowledge with our audience.
Thank you, Chris. You're a great interviewer. It's great to be here.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot. Hey, Chris here again. I hope you found this episode valuable. Now, I have one more thing to gift you. We have a page for my coaching clients where you can get a free copy of my book, as well as much more from previous guests on the show. Just check out nextlevelincome.com/coaching to get a free copy of my book, audiobook, and much more. I'll send you a copy of my book and cover all the shipping costs as a thank you for listening to the podcast. Also, please like, share, and take just 90 seconds to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts.